What we did was, well, it wasn't the Labour government who did that, but what we did was make sure, absolutely sure. Well, I have to say, there was a UKIP representative who said the floods were due to the gay marriage policy, but that's another story for another day. But look, the thing is that under the Labour government, Hilary Benn, we increased the amount of resources to deal with adaptation and tackling floods. That did go down, as Andrew said quite rightly. And the truth is, what we need now is a proper long-term plan to look at how we build resilience in. And that includes asking critical infrastructure, airports, hospitals, schools and all of that to make sure that they report on how they're dealing with it. And it's why we've also said the Infrastructure Commission can play an important role in prevention.
Roger's got a question for you, so we'll hear from you.
OK, well, let's take it a bit more broadly to the countryside and how it looks and how it is. As you know, if we let our hill farms go back to their natural state, most of them would be woodland, some of them would be moorland. The thing that's shaping the look of the British countryside is agricultural subsidies, and particularly in hill areas to hill farmers. I'm just wondering, do you want Britain to go back to a wilderness state, or do you want to continue paying farmers to farm in areas it's uneconomic? I'm not quite sure what your policy is on that.
Are you talking about the Green Party?
Yes. Yes.
We want a mixture of things. Obviously, agriculture is important. We need wild areas. But yeah, subsidies can be used to bring very positive policies forward on that.
Indeed, that's what's said at the moment. But would you remove subsidies from hill farmers, given that they're only marginal anyway, and let the land go back to the natural state? It's an idea of rewilding promoted. It's quite fashionable in green circles.
Yeah, I've heard George Monbiot said that. And I think in some instances that there may be some benefits from that. But I think it's
CAP.
I think it's one of those things where we would look to finding different solutions in different areas as they're appropriate.
Well, Roger Helmer, do you think that the EU should continue subsidising our farmers up to, Roger telling me, €300,000? Indeed, Roger, you visited one farmer recently who got €1 million.
He's getting €1 million a year. I asked him, do you need the money? He said no.
No, I don't believe the EU should continue subsidising our farmers. I believe that we should leave the European Union, and then we would have a farm subsidy policy designed in Britain for British farmers, not a policy designed in Brussels for French farmers. And I do want to make that point very strongly for any farmers who may be watching, although they'll probably be working.
So they still get subsidies, just from London, not Brussels?
Yes, and designed for the British agricultural environment. If you go and talk to farmers, as I often do, because I live in a fairly rural area, they like getting the cheque, but they are very unhappy about some of the terms which they have to fulfil in order to get the cheque. We would work with the farming industry to deliver those subsidies that were necessary in a much more user-friendly way.
Is Labour in favour of these subsidies for farmers?
I think in some cases it is important that we support farming, but I think also we should...
Up to €300,000 per farmer? £1 million to Roger's
You could cut it off. You've cut social benefits. You could cut off at 300,000.
I think in different...
We're allowed to.
There's different types of farming, isn't there, in different
We're allowed to under European
We're allowed to under European law to cut off subsidy at 300,000.
We've always said that we should look at how we reform the CAP, but also we've also said that, you know, there's not one type of farming in one part of the country that's the same for everywhere else. So I do think you have to look across the sector. What I would say, though, is that I think some of the monies could go to engage with farmers to work with us on things like adaptation, for example, on things like biodiversity. And that is something the last Labour government did champion, and lots of farmers, I have to say, including my own area of Doncaster, took the opportunity to do that. But I think, again, it's about looking at how we both support the industry, but also allow it to grow in different ways. I've got a farmer near me who's looking to develop solar on his farm.
Small farm businesses are also one of the ones that we really ought to be pushing, rather than big, large agricultural...
Well, I don't think the small farms are the ones getting the 300.
No, they're the ones that we need to support.
Hancock, we've got a hunting ban in place. It's a hunting ban that a majority of people support, according to the polls. The Parliament passed it. But you want to reopen this issue again. Why?
Well, we think that we should have a free vote on hunting in the next Parliament. It's about supporting not only our rural environment, which, as Roger says, it's a man-made and man-managed environment.
But hunting's going on in some shape or form anyway at the moment. Why reopen this issue?
But it's also about supporting our rural way of life, and this is something that happens.
But I see pictures of the hunt taking place all the time.
Drag hunts are very popular, and in fact, what we were told at the time of the hunting ban that dogs would be killed, that it wouldn't happen, has not materialised. There are now drag hunting going on. I refuse to accept that fox hunting in of itself is the most precious thing in terms of preserving rural communities.
Exactly.
Lots of people in rural communities.
Rural broadband is the most important thing you can do for the rural economy. Then things like, when I was Post Office Minister, we stopped Labour's previous post office closure programme, and we've kept post offices alive in many of our villages.
It's a long way to go on rural broadband, isn't there?
No, well, there is still a way to go, but we've really quickened it under this government, and I actually pay tribute to Saji,
Andrew Cooper,
DCMS, who's really gone forward. So if you're serious about improving economic growth in our rural areas, which Liberal Democrats
I understand that.
I don't think getting rid of the hunting ban is going to make any difference.
I represent a rural constituency as a parish councillor. And we've been trying to get rural broadband there for quite a while, but it's government that's actually causing difficulty. It's government that's actually making it difficult for rural communities to get rural broadband. There are lots of barriers that are actually put in the way, and government should help us sort it out.
The other big issue we haven't mentioned is building on the green belt. And the Conservative Party in their last manifesto said they would give more power to local people to make those decisions. In fact, they've done exactly the opposite, and they've created a situation where there is a quasi-obligation on local authorities to build on green belts.
Well, the national...
and we're not being serious.
But hold on, you want a massive house building programme, but at the same time you want all the planning laws, the planning decisions to be taken at a local level. You never get your house building programme.
Well, if you go to the Royal Institute of Chartered Surveyors, you will find they say that UKIP is the only party with a viable and workable programme to solve Britain's long-term housing crisis.
One of the real problems.
When did they say that?
They said it in their recent analysis of our manifesto.
Quickly, and then Roger.
One of the real problems we have is we have a lot of developers who are land banking. There's lots of planning permission that's out there.
How much?
We've got, well, in our particular council, we've got thousands of.
No, how much nationally is all this? Because I hear this all the time, but no one can tell me how much. How much land ready for building is being banked rather than used?
Yeah, I can tell you. I can give you examples from our council, but they can be replicated across the country.
OK, Roger.
Yes, question for Caroline Flint. If you look at the Conservatives' manifesto, they want to develop the policies they've got of valuing our natural capital, our soil, our water, our air, actually putting a cash value on it and setting a timetable to restore the countryside to proper health. If you look at Labour's main manifesto, and I haven't seen your more detailed one you published today, you told me earlier on, if you look at the main manifesto, there's almost nothing about the countryside in it at all.
But what our policy is to have a 25-year plan with 5-year milestones to look at how we are helping recovery in our natural environment. And one of the issues we want to address, which I think actually builds on our record in the past. We brought in Right to Roam, both in the countryside and on the coastal paths, but we want to also look at how better we can bring, for example, woodlands closer to where people are. So we have a 25-year plan with 5-year milestones.
We need stronger legislative protection. I think we can learn from the Climate Change Act, which has been successful. I think we need a new Nature Act to have really strong statutory targets on clean air, on clean water and biodiversity.
Well, it's in my nature to finish this debate with some quick-fire questions, and I want very quick answers. Do you support genetically modified foods? Roger, Helmer.
Broadly speaking, subject to proper controls, yes.
Yes.
No.
Yes.
I think we need to look at the science and be sure that it's
haven't you done that already?
We've got more science, I think, to do to make sure about the consequences for the environment, but also for consumers.
Would you support more onshore wind turbines?
Yes.
We don't think there should be any subsidies in the future.
Yes.
Yes.
We wouldn't support any wind farms.
OK, for country people, petrol is a big cost. They have to do more driving because of the distance. Would you raise, or do you guarantee not to raise, fuel duties?
We would do so, yes.
You would guarantee not to raise?
Not to raise fuel duties.
I think we do it in line with inflation like most governments do.
You would, just to clarify, you would let them rise in line?
Well, that's an option. I mean, what we've done in the coalition, we've actually frozen them in nominal terms for most of the Parliament, partly because of the difficult economic situation, the cost of living. But most governments have at least let them go by the cost of living.
We would support low-emission vehicles, which would provide alternatives to rural.
But would you put out? Yeah, but that'll take a while. Would you put up fuel duties?
It can be done now, but yes.
You would do it?
Yes.
We've done better than that. We've brought them down by fuel duty down by one
penny. So the
penny.
next Conservative government won't increase them?
We've brought them down in this Parliament.
I didn't ask about what you've done. I'm asking what were you doing?
Well, we certainly don't have any plans to, but
no
we don't need to.
Okay, like no plans to raise VAT.
But but we brought them down. Not only have we brought them down, but also there'd be a tenner higher per tank if we followed Labour's
Caroline
plans.
Flynn, we only got 10 seconds in this part. Would the next Labour government raise fuel duties?
We'd look at that in line with inflation, as Ed said, but we can't make promises that we cannot make sure they're affordable. But low-emission cars are also an answer to this as well.
In line with inflation.
Time now for our five parties to make their final pitches to you on why their party has the best policies on the environment. They only have 30 seconds, and it's in reverse order. It's a bit like Miss World, really. Let's begin with Roger Helmer of UKIP.
Well, the situation that we face today is that energy prices are far higher than they need to be. That is not an accident of fate. That is the result of deliberate policies pursued by the parties that you see here on the right of me. We in UKIP say we want to rely on proven, low-cost energy technologies that can deliver secure and affordable energy for households, for pensioners, but also for industry. And I stress the point that we are driving industries offshore to jurisdictions where they are producing higher emissions per unit of production than they are here.
Ed Davey.
The Liberal Democrats have a very proud record on the environment in government. Not only have we nearly trebled renewable electricity in Britain, but internationally we've led the debate for tougher environmental and climate change targets in Europe and at the UN. Moreover, we've planted 1 million trees, we taxed plastic bags and so on. And on our manifesto, on the front page of our manifesto, we've put a commitment for 5 green laws, 5 new green laws to help on nature, to help on increasing our ambition on climate change and make sure people's homes are much greener. And in a balanced parliament that we're looking, it's the Liberal Democrats that can guarantee strong environmental policies.
All right. Andrew Cooper.
Action on climate change has been feeble. While other countries produce over 50% of their energy from renewable sources, we produce little over 5%. Malta and Luxembourg have a worse record. We need to invest in insulating over 9 million new homes and taking 2 million people out of fuel poverty. The consequences of failing to address the problem are already being felt. We need Greens in the Parliament to push for real commitment to address climate change. Vote for what you believe in, vote Green.
Thank you for that. Matt Hancock.
I think what you've heard today is a debate with a great deal of chaos between the other parties and one party that proposes a clear, long-term plan. Yes, to tackle carbon emissions and live within our international obligations, but to do so in a way that brings the minimum possible cost. And I'm an optimist that with new technology and with international agreement, we can tackle this problem in a way that ultimately brings costs down and at the same time invest in our energy infrastructure so that we don't get to the stage that we don't have that infrastructure for the future. And what you've heard today...
Time gone. Sorry. Time gone.
This election is a choice between 5 more years of the Tories' failing plan where energy companies carry on ripping people off, fewer homes get help with insulation and Britain falls behind in the green economy and loses influence overseas. Or Labour's better plan with fair energy bills, help to make homes warmer and cheaper to heat, extending public access to nature and safeguarding our environment for future generations. Leadership from a Labour government on climate change at home, important to secure influence abroad.
Thank you very much, and thanks to you all. That's it for today's debate. My thanks to our guests, a special thanks to Roger Harrabin. Now, tomorrow we turn to foreign affairs. I'll be joined by the Foreign Secretary Philip Hammond, Shadow Foreign Secretary Douglas Alexander, and representatives from the Lib Dems, UKIP and the Greens, and by the BBC's diplomatic editor Bridget Kendall to help keep them honest. Plus, don't forget, the Daily Politics Election Special is back tomorrow, as always, every weekday at noon. But from all of us here, from our first debate, bye-bye.